Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're back again with another divisional preview. This is
the last
one, yes, when the most passionate one for these two boys. If you just see the banner behind them, we're
Let's
back
go.
again, always as Isaiah and Moody. How we doing today?
What's good, y'all?
Doing well.
Y'all ready for this football tomorrow?
Can't wait.
Football, it's here. Sunday at 1 o'clock. Red Zone.
Oh no, Thursday
tomorrow, yeah.
At 8 p.m. is when the NFL season
That's just
starts.
the fact. That's just the appetizer. I can't wait for Sunday.
7 hours of commercial-free football with Sky Hansen. Can't wait.
NFC East.
No,
Crazy.
North. No. Oh, I guess we didn't do the North yet. We did do the North already, didn't we?
We're doing the NFC East video. What you talking about?
Yeah. I thought we did. I was trying to remember if we did the North yet or not.
Yesterday.
We did it yesterday.
We talking about the NFC East.
We're talking about the NFC East.
You good? You high?
No, I'm not. Sadly, I've been sober for 2 days.
All right, then we gotta get cut back in it because Moody thought we were talking about the NFC North still. All right, so the NFC East winners last year.
The NFC East is the way to go with it, I think.
They were won by the 7-9 Washington football team, who gave Tampa Bay probably the hardest fight in the playoffs last year.
I agree with that.
Football team was in the game, but they were never
in the game.
Like the Packers were way more in the game than Taylor Heineke ever.
The way they were making plays, made it seem like they weren't going to ever stop being in the game, and there was always one.
But did you ever for a second believe Washington football team was going to win that game?
When Taylor Heineke dove in and scored that touchdown, I was like, wait, what? I didn't know. And oofed a couple of a few times on that drive. I was like, I didn't know what was going on there.
I think people were just hoping for a Tom Brady L more than they were expecting a Washington football team W.
And Chase and that defensive line was giving Tom Brady some problems. So that's kind of probably why that was probably the hardest pass rush he faced in the whole playoffs, and that's probably why they looked the most stagnant.
They still scored 31 points in that
Devin White did miss that game. Mm-hmm. All right, so Washington football team, let's get it.
All right, so I would say with their free agency, their biggest signing was William Jackson. Got him out of Cincinnati. 3 years for $40.5 million. I think this is a good pickup for them. It gives them another corner that can go guard an Amari Cooper or Kenny Galladay. This was probably my favorite move for them was Curtis Samuel coming from my Carolina Panthers.
Let me pause on that real quick. So Curtis Samuel, who played under Ron Rivera, never broke out until Ron Rivera was gone, and now he's going back to play with Ron Rivera.
He also hurt his groin today in practice and is questionable for week 1 against the Chargers.
That's tough. I did see that.
Just a little update for that.
Yeah, but that's an explosive player. He was amazing last year. He broke out finally.
He's a lethal speedster weapon for sure.
How you feel about losing him in Carolina?
Initially I was very, very hurt, but with
Terrence Marshall Jr.
Yeah, with the addition of Terrence Marshall
and the addition of C-League.
Yeah, we're deep enough at the weapons positions to where we could afford to let them go. And then they bring in Vince Magic on a 1-year, $10 million deal. I love this. I love this for the year, for the 1 year. I wish in the draft they addressed a quarterback somewhere. But I think for a year, getting a waiver on Fitzpatrick with that defense, I think he's going to be doing some things this year with Terry, Curtis, Antonio Gibson. They also brought in Charles Leno.
Yeah. He's irrelevant, really.
Yeah, left tackle.
He's probably going to start left tackle for them.
Yeah, because he's one of those players that keeps starting because someone got to start. There need to be 32 starting left tackles in the league.
And there are 32 starting left tackles in the league. There might be 15.
They also brought in Darryl Roberts, corner from Detroit. Detroit guys, you know how that go. Bobby McCain, another corner. Lamar Miller to add depth to the running back.
He's still in the league?
Yeah. He tore his Achilles against the Cowboys in preseason last year, and he's finally back and healthy and ready to go.
They added Adam Humphries as another slot receiver. I don't think he'll be getting that much. Let's see. Who else did they? Those are all of note.
I'm just gonna thank God Washington football team decided to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's
who else were they gonna go with?
They probably could have did that Bears deal and got Justin Fields.
They didn't have any picks to give up, really.
Where are their picks going?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Ron Rivera was always going to want to go with a veteran.
And thank you.
That's Fitzmagic.
You mean 16 years no playoff appearances, Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yes, that guy.
All
But
right.
I'm not saying.
That's all I need to know.
I'm not saying like Eric. I'm not saying I love the move. I think it's an interesting chance to take. And
Yeah, on a guy who's been playing for 16 years. All of a sudden, he's going to be a whole new guy.
He's aging like fine wine. He gets better and better every year. The beard is immaculate, and there's a reason he keeps finding teams to start for. Like every year, somebody says we need to bring Ryan Fitzpatrick to start for our team.
I don't know why. As we've seen, if Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting your football team, you are guaranteed to miss the playoffs. It's a fact.
Even if you go 10-6.
Even if you go 10-6, because he'll throw it away in week 17.
But
I'm not saying.
I'd give their offseason free agency. I'd give them a B. I really like the William Jackson pickup and the Curtis.
That was outstanding.
Fitzpatrick for the year. I mean, you're not committed to him long term, so it's really just a waiver. Onto their draft, they took Jamian Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. What do y'all think of that pick?
It's risky.
I'm not really a huge fan of taking off-ball linebackers, but they're trying to load up that defense. They're trying to make that defense the undisputed best in the NFL, and they had to need a linebacker, so I can live with it.
I would have taken an offensive lineman there because you talk about a team that didn't address the offensive line.
They did not.
They didn't address the offensive line.
They're too big. The Washington football team, two biggest weaknesses last year was quarterback and offensive line, and they left it alone. So beautiful.
Well, they addressed it in the second round with Samuel Cosme, offensive tackle from Texas, who
I kind of like him. I
think he needs some development, but he'll be a good player for them at some point.
Yeah. Well, they had a lot of picks. In round 3, they got Benjamin St. Justy.
I think it's just juiced.
Yeah, I think there's a pick that I like that they really got though.
Who? Damian Brown.
Miami Brown. Yes, sir. He's explosive. He could be Tyreek Hill type of player, and playing with what's it called? Playing with Scary Terry. And Curtis Samuel. That's elite speed. That's elite speed. That's like Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers type of. We got burners at receivers out here. Yeah. So we'll see how they use him. He can do that gadget stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, I'd give their draft probably C+. I mean, yeah. I definitely think they could have gone another route in round 1. But hey, if he becomes a great linebacker, we won't be saying that, and he'll become a higher grade. But
yeah, what I agree with there is that their defense is already elite with how great their front is and how good their secondary is. They could have taken a chance. They needed a couple offensive linemen. So like Aleem Eichenberg there, I could have seen that. I don't remember who we projected for them to take, but
you have to go check the draft stuff. But yeah, it's just they seem to be just trying to overload that defense. You know, Ron Rivera loves his Mike linebacker to control everything in his 4-3, make all the calls, be sideline to sideline. Jamie Davis does have some coverage upside as well with his athleticism. So their defense is stacked. We know that, and they continue to hammer it in the draft.
Yeah. So I'd give their overall probably a B. I really like their pickups in free agency and so draft. And yeah, that's the Washington football team, boys.
Who won the NFC East last year?
With 7 wins.
They got it done. So moving on to the second place team.
I mean, the Eagles did tank out the last game to make sure they got it done, but that's another conversation for another day.
You know that I don't even. I'm not really mad at it because
because you didn't want to be in the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, there's no good things to become from being in the playoffs at 6 and 10.
Thomas, the Washington football team is probably the team that needed to be in the playoffs the least of all 4 of the other teams. Maybe Philly, but they needed a quarterback in the worst way. So we'll see how it goes for them.
All right,
we can move on to
as for the New York Football Giants right behind me, they lost Golden Tate, who they cut, and I just found out he hasn't resigned anywhere.
Nah, he hurt this one.
Kevin Zeitler, who they also cut for salary cap reasons, who went on to Baltimore for a pretty cheap deal. So he's nearing the end of his career too. Dalvin Tomlinson's probably their biggest loss of a starter caliber player, but they also lost Cam Fleming, who's the backup. He's the go-to rotational tackle backup that's going around the league nowadays. Kyler Fackrell, who's going to LA. Colt McCoy, who I think has potential to be the biggest loss because they replaced him with Mike Glennon, and
that's a steep cliff if Daniel Jones has to miss any time. But backup quarterbacks are something that people worry way too much about.
Spencer Pulley and David Mayo were some more like a backup center. Spencer Pulley, who I thought he's a replacement level center. He can play. He's no scrub, but he's no star. And Mayo, who's just he's a thumper. He's the definition of throwback 80s thumper. That's the only thing he does. He's going to Washington football team, actually, which I didn't realize until I looked recently. So the Giants followed my report, my predictions, my analysis of how to work free agency. They were able to bring back Leo Williams. I don't know how they restructured the contracts, but they pushed the money back, gave him his bag, $20 million. That's the going price for interior rushers now. But I guess everybody who isn't a quarterback is getting $20 million because the quarterbacks are getting $40 million. But they didn't allow that to affect them. They still were able to go out and get the best receiver on the market, Kenny Galladay. Huge fan of his size and what he brings to the game. I thought they got him for a good price. I thought that he could have easily got 4 for $80 and become a $20 million player, but 4 for $72, a little bit of hair to come play in New York. You're gonna make more. You're gonna make more money off endorsements playing in New York anyway. Also, I wanted him to go get William Jackson. They went, but late in free agency, early in free agency, Adoree Jackson became available. A guy who's played in our scheme in Tennessee. Logan Ryan said, "Go get him." They went and go get him. Hopefully, he stays healthy. Him and Kenny Galladay both almost suffered major injuries in the preseason, but they look like they're on track to get it going in week 1. Other than that, also like the Kyle Rudolph pickup because somehow he came into camp hurt, but Evan Ingram's the guy who's going to miss week 1. So that's why you go get Kyle Rudolph because you can't rely on Evan Ingram. And then also, like I said, Devontae Booker to spell Saquon. I mean, it's a backup running back. Devontae Booker has ability to play running back, just not.
He's a replacement level. Anybody can do what he does type of running back.
Now, I was high on getting John Ross, but he refuses to stay healthy. He survived the roster cuts. So clearly they like what they've seen. He was amazing in the spring. His speed is elite. And when he's on the field, he's a playmaker. He's barely on the field. So I digress from that. Hopefully we'll get to see him back. He's hurt. We'll see if he plays week 1. In some housekeeping, Danny Shelton, Reggie Ragland, Ryan Anderson, backup rotational rush. I don't know what they're doing next to Blake Martinez at linebacker. It's really mostly Mr. Peppers, so that's really a relevant position. That's for first, second down. And Danny Shelton, who I think will replace Dalvin Tomlinson. And in my opinion, going cheap at nose tackle for 3-4 defenses is the way to go. So,
especially since y'all have a $20 million and a first-round investment at that position already.
They didn't need to put more assets.
Mr. Mike Lennon.
Well, we've already talked about.
You were gone when we mentioned Mike Lennon.
Yeah, he was terrible to watch in the preseason. Terrible. He actually played some of the best football in Jacksonville last year, surprisingly, of his career, which isn't like a high meter, but it's not a high meter, but like the best I've ever seen Mike Lennon was last year in Jacksonville.
If he's playing games for you, you're in a lot of trouble. That's all you need to know.
Absolute trash can in Tampa Bay, absolute trash can in Chicago.
I like
I
like the Adoree Jackson pickup a lot, and the Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, Adoree Jackson is probably, in my opinion, is probably the best free agent. I like Kenny Galladay. They needed Kenny Galladay more, but as far as like value, I think Adoree Jackson was the best pickup.
Don't paying him more than Jackson, the football team, paid.
No way.
I believe so.
Adoree got $12 million.
You got
Adoree got 13
a year.
Yeah, he got 13. 3 for 39.
13 and a half.
Yeah, I was like,
Jackson only beats him by $500,000.
Yeah, and Adoree's is mostly fluffed out, and I think Jackson's is fluffed out too. I think both got deals, but they're like, if you get hurt, there's outs out of them from what I was.
Jackson got 26 guaranteed out of his 40 and a half, and Adoree got 24 and a half guaranteed of his 39.
Yeah. So like, and I think there's a potential. I think there's like a contract outs. Like we all know these contracts ain't fully guaranteed. Good job to the NFLPA for that one. I gave the free agency I gave it a B plus. I gave it a B plus. I mean, I don't know what they could have done on the off to address the offensive line in free agency. That's the biggest problem. They needed a better
offensive lineman don't be available.
So like that, I would have worked if to find out that Orlando Brown was available, I would have looked into that because I would have preferred to go get him instead of using the first round pick. But I guess they didn't. I don't know. Kansas City got him, so I guess if Kansas City comes a knocking, that's what you get. I gave it a B plus, with a potential to be really an A minus because they worked the cap out. So you have to see, but free agency is always risky, so I'm not gonna jump the gun, especially since these guys have already been nicked and nacked a little bit. Now their draft was hit or miss as well, in my opinion. They made the trade to give Justin Fields to the Chicago Bears.
I think that's the best thing y'all did in the draft.
So they got that first round pick, but picks aren't players. I was in love with Rashawn Slater, and he could play guard too. So I thought if they just – and he was falling. So I would have sat there, and I would have took Rashawn Slater because he could play tackle, guard, and they needed another blue-chip player on that team and that offensive line. So the bank on Andrew Thomas, who's looked mediocre to best all season, I mean, you're going to probably have to wait for him to develop. And they have a hole at guard. I mean, Hernandez has been good, but –
he seems to
Shane Lemieux's a date.
Plateaued.
Yeah, I think Hernandez can get better. I just don't know what Shane Lemieux could become. They like Nick Gates. Rashawn Slater could play center, guard, or tackle. He might be the best player in a few years out of this draft. And if he becomes that, I'm gonna not like this draft even more. So they took Kadarius Toney, I had Kadarius Toney in that class with Terrace Marshall. Right, I had him behind Terrace Marshall, but he was right there in that class with the guy the Jets got. And the Miami Browns, the smaller slot explosive guys,
Green Bay.
Apparently Urban Meyer was going to take him at 25, but so they knew where to fall back to. But I would have took Slater. So it's only going to bank on what you do with that pick next year, which you got to wait next year. So we never know. Dave Gettleman might not even be making.
Hope y'all not looking for a quarterback.
Now their best pick was the guy I believe was the second best edge rusher in the class. He fell because apparently he had a knee problem pop up, but who knows who puts out those reports. It was Azeez Ojulari, who I think is a sneaky bet for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Get it in there. Led the SEC in sacks in a timeshare. So elite
y'all
player.
had a massive meat on the edge. So
elite player. And the thing is, they have Lorenzo Carter
coming off the Achilles.
They got Shane Zimmerman coming off the shoulder, but they got a lot of young edge guys. And Lorenzo Carter's looked pretty good in camp, but I think Azeez is going to be has the highest ceiling of all those guys. So they effectively got the edge position. I would have liked to see them attack that in free agency, but they got that in their draft. So I'll live with that. And then other than that, guys that I like, everybody liked Aaron Robinson. 5'11", do it all. Plays slot a lot at UCF, but can move on the outside. He's been hurt. He's going to start the season on PUP, so we're going to have to wait on that. They take corners like they're nothing.
Aaron Robinson, Alabama.
Huh?
The site I have says Aaron Robinson went to Alabama, not UCF.
He went to he started at Alabama.
But he would transfer to UCF, I think.
Yeah,
he was one of those slot nickel type of smaller cornerbacks.
He's there to replace Logan Ryan. In that Logan, he's probably there to replace Logan Ryan in the end. I think our secondary is loaded. I think it's one of the top 3 secondary in the NFL. So they love throwing assets on that. We play that Bill Belichick scheme, so I see why they did that. And other than that, Ellison Smith has potential, but he's raw as hell. He came from UNI, which is a Division II school too, and he's been hurt off camp, so we'll see about that. I did really like the Rodarius Williams pick. He's a guy that's going to be a good special teamer, but he's ready to go now. He's 25, which is why he wasn't a top day 1 or day 2 prospect, but he's been looking good in the preseason. He's ready to go now. So that's it. I gave the draft. Huh?
I don't trust Big 12 corners.
I mean, he's related to Greedy Williams, so it's in his blood. He's older than his brother, but he came to the league. He looked good. He looks really good, and he's as good as he's ever going to be probably now. So we'll see about that. He's ready to play now. You get him in day 3 in the 7th. Yeah, 7th. And that's about it. I gave the draft a B+. They better hope Azeez. It's really going to come down to what they do with the pick next year and Kadarius Toney, because Tony's been hurt. I don't really know if Jason Garrett's going to maximize him, but that's to be seen. Okay.
But the Giants are yet another team that I am just so happy that they decided not to take a quarterback this year. But overall, like we know that secondary is going to be loaded. I like the Azeez Ojulari pick for where they got him at 50. That's unbelievable value. We'll see about Kadarius Toney. He's a gadget guy. Jay Scared don't really love gadget guys, so we're gonna see how he's able.
It's weird though, because a lot of his film is on the outside, so he does the outside.
I mean, he could do like he went in the first round for a reason.
When you watch the Florida film, it's really just them feeding Kadarius Toney when they're not feeding Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how y'all use him on an offense that has a lot of guys who need the ball.
I don't think he's gonna play a lot this year because they still have.
If your first round pick not playing a lot, that's a problem.
I think they picked him for. That's the reason
I
don't
think
like
he's taking
pick.
Slayton off the field, honestly.
I like Slayton a lot still as a number 2. I think Slayton's a perfect number 2, but I just don't think they're going to use him this year. I think they'll cut Shepard next year, and he'll replace Shepard next year. So, and we'll see what Jason Garrett knows what to do with him. All right, on to the most overrated franchise in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys. Last year they went 6-10. The offensive stats really don't matter because the whole offense missed most of the season. They were 24th in offensive DVOA, 24th in passing, 20th in rushing. As we know, Dak went out in the third quarter of week 5. Zeke had really down year for his normal production, but with Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith and Zach Martin all missing 8+ games, Lyle missing the whole season, it was a real hard time for the Dallas Cowboys last year to make things happen. But we all know what the real issue with the Dallas Cowboys last year, and it was with their awful defense. But they ended up finishing 23rd somehow because they had.
Ain't that crazy? Their defense was the worst. So they brought in a defensive coordinator from the only defense worse than their defense.
Now listen, Dan Quinn was not a great head coach. But Dan Quinn is a good defensive coordinator.
That's what I'm talking about, his defense.
But the defense was bad. The defense fell off when it came to their injury stuff. But Dan Quinn has a history of making that really difficult for people, especially when it matters. He's the only guy who slowed down Nick Foles in that playoff run. He shut down Sean McVay in the playoff game. He shut down Russell Wilson. He shut down Aaron Rodgers. That's 4 high-level offenses that he has shut down in the NFL playoffs. So he's not a bad defensive coordinator.
It was -5 degrees out there in Philadelphia.
I mean, that didn't stop them from putting 35 on Minnesota with no problems.
Jared Goff in his first playoff game. Okay.
Yeah, that Nick Foles threw. not Case Keenum. So overall, they brought in Dan Quinn. He's significantly better than Mike Nolan. In my opinion, he was the defensive coordinator for LOB. He will be an improvement. So
was Gus Bradley on that going to the Raiders. So we'll see how LOB's
and you saw what happened to Jacksonville's defense.
LOB's clout's running out of hand here because if Gus Bradley and Quinn break, then that's the end of that.
I mean, they're all going to be out of the league now, but we know what they were doing a few years ago. Off-season additions. The Cowboys didn't have a lot of cap space because they finally gave the bag to their QB1, Dak Prescott, and so they had to sit and do some finagling to get some guys on the roster, but they did make a few moves. They added Ty Nsekhe. Obviously, swing tackle was one of the top 3 needs on the team after the tackle spent the whole season hurt last year. Both of them. He was arguably the best swing tackle on the market.
We mentioned that in the last NFC East.
Perfect guy to bring in to be a guy who can fill in the event that our tackles miss any games. They brought in Malik Hooker late in the process. Coming off a torn Achilles last year, but when he's played, he's been a very good player, and he's finally going to play in a scheme that fits him more. Well, he's not going to be a starter right away because of someone else they added, but he might be somebody who can make plays later in the season. They brought in punter Brian Anger from the Houston Texans because their punter of the last 3 years, Chris Jones, has been the worst punter in the NFL, and they finally got rid of him. Thank God for that.
He was elite that 1 year.
In 2016. That was a long time ago.
lived off that 1 good year.
Yeah, they gave him a contract, and we just had to keep shelling that money out. They added Keanu Neal, safety converted linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons, Dan Quinn guy to come in and help them on that area. They brought in Brent Urban, D tackle from Chicago, to come help in the run defense. Recently, they claimed Will Greer from waivers after the Carolina Panthers cut him. He's going to come in. He's not QB2 now, but I expect him to be QB2 in the near future. They recently added the recently cut Corey Clement from the New York Giants,
who fumbles. Every
1 out of 27 carries.
When I seen that stat, I was like, "What?" And he fumbled twice in the preseason.
It's crazy.
I was like, "Oh, Yeah.
He's here to be a special. He's
good on
a guy
special
who
teams.
plays special teams
And he
way
can
more
catch.
than he plays running back
He's
nowadays.
good. Like he's been good in Philly.
In the Philadelphia Super Bowl run, he was incredible.
He looked good in camp. He just fumbles one every 27 possessions.
So just don't give him 27 carries and you'll be good to go. They added a guy who I think is going to be a sneaky edge rushing pick for them, Terrell Basham from the New York Jets. I think he was being played out of position at outside linebacker. Him coming to be able to put his hand down and play some edge 4-3 stuff for Dan Quinn, I think will be good for him. And lastly, in free agency, they added DeMonte Casey, another free safety coming off a torn Achilles, but a guy who 2 years ago led the league in interceptions, had a couple of interceptions last year before he got hurt. He knows the Dan Quinn scheme as well as anybody. It's the only scheme he's ever played in. Fine pickup for them.
So y'all brought in 3 safeties, converted one to a linebacker, all coming off 20.
The Cowboys don't give a shit about safety. They never have, and they probably never will. Losses. Obviously, the most high-profile loss will be Andy Dalton, who went to go be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, but I am not going to miss him at all. Hopefully,
you might. You never know.
As last year showed,
he won the Minnesota game, which is a tough game.
Yeah, he won enough games.
That was the only game he had a chance.
He won enough games for us to have to not get our cornerback in the first round. Thank you, Andy Dalton. I appreciate it. But overall, the backup quarterback is something that you never want to see be on the field. He's gone. We'll be fine. They lost Cam Irving, who's going to go be a starting tackle in Carolina. He only played 2 games last year for the team because, as with any offensive lineman for the Cowboys played last year, he got hurt whenever he played. They lost veteran rotational linebacker Joe Thomas. They lost their starting cornerback Chidobe Awuzie, who signed a $28 million deal in Cincinnati. And they lost their starting free safety Xavier Woods, who signed a cheap 1-year deal in Minnesota.
Don't expect him to try hard.
Don't expect him to try hard at all, because apparently guys don't try hard every play. For their free agency, I gave them a C. They didn't have a lot of money to do a whole lot, but I did like the depth they brought in terms of tackle depth. Keanu Neal's going to start for them at linebacker. He had a really impressive, the highest graded linebacker in the preseason. Yes, he will be
over who?
We're just going to find out that Jalen Smith is not going to play, but I'll talk about that later. In the draft, the reason why Jalen Smith will not be playing this year is because Michael Parsons was the first-round pick.
He was my number 1 defensive player on the board.
Now, I am happy that I did not have to do this review right after the draft because I was not happy with the pick because on a team that already has a $70 million investment at linebacker,
you still not happy with the pick.
A first-round pick at linebacker. I did not like the idea of adding another linebacker to the mix. But after watching him play in preseason, he might already be the best defender on the team. He's been.
Was that like a hard thing?
Well, yeah, because DeMarcus Lawrence.
Okay, he's not better. He has to prove he's better than DeMarcus Lawrence.
But that's why I said
three down seasons.
That's why I said might not. But that's why I said might.
He plays linebacker.
He looked fantastic. He's gonna. And the thing is, the reason why he looks more worth the pick now than he did previously is because of what Dan Quinn's going to do with him in our scheme. He's not just going to be middle of the field, sideline to sideline linebacker. He's going to play some edge. He's going to blitz a lot, sideline to sideline. They're going to use him all over the field. I'm really excited about the prospects of Michael Parsons now that I've seen him, what Dan Quinn plans on doing with him, because they're not just going to waste him as a Mike linebacker. They're going to move him around. They're going to allow him to use his edge rushing skills. They're going to allow him to use his ability to run sideline to sideline. He'll be a spy. He didn't cover a whole lot at Penn State, but he's got all the athleticism in the world to be excellent in that area as well. But moving on is where I like the picks less and less.
So does Devin White and Raekwon Smith, and they haven't picked up their coverage. Coverage is here.
Well, he wasn't bad in coverage. He just didn't cover. That's going to be. I think that's the difference. We'll have to see how he looks when he gets on the field.
Best defensive player in the draft. The only problem is that he played linebacker. But if he does pass rush stuff,
and they also traded back, picked up an extra third to add him, so that helps bump up the grade a little bit as well. And on day 2, the Cowboys had 11 picks in this draft, by the way. They had a ton of picks, and they took them all, and all 11 made the team. In the second round, they took Kelvin Joseph, a.k.a. Boss Man Fat, out of Kentucky, the only guy who guarded Devontae Smith well at all last year. He's a guy he was at LSU. He was a highly recruited guy. Some stuff went on in LSU that nobody really knows, and he transferred over to Kentucky. No one has a bad thing to say about him, though. But for whatever reason, he's no longer a part of.
Jerry Jones knows how to hide all that stuff. Jerry Jones' closet is probably full of dark secrets.
Well, overall, he's a guy who going to need some development. He only started 9 games in college because of all that he had to sit out a year for transfer, and he couldn't go on the field his first year at LSU. But when he joined Kentucky, he immediately became a really, really good football player for them. So we'll see how that goes. He's going to need some time to develop. He's on IR right now. We'll see him in October. In the third, they made 3 picks. In the Osa Odigizua, who Isaiah will be very familiar with his brother and those bloodlines, but I think he's a little bit more into the game of football than his brother.
They went in the same round, surprisingly. Like they're like, it's crazy that not one of them is a special talent where they don't get to get.
But Osa is going to start a 3 technique due to the injury of Neville Gallimore, so we'll see how he opens up. He'll probably have the best matchup of the Buccaneers defensive line with Alex Kappa. They also took Chauncey Golston, DN from Iowa. They took the surprising pick of the draft for everybody, cornerback Nashawn Wright from Oregon State. No one really expected him to go in day 2, but somehow he ended up in the third.
How's he been playing?
He's fine. That's a Dan Quinn guy. 6'4", 4.4 speed, long arms. He's gonna defend the deep third. We know how it's gonna go, but he's gonna need time to develop. He's not a guy who's ready to be a full-time corner right away. He'll be a guy who's probably going to be inactive every week for now, but hopefully as the season goes on, he can find his way on the field because Cowboys cornerbacks are not good. In the fourth, my favorite pick of the whole draft, and the reason why I would have rather have not taken a linebacker in the first round, Jabril Cox from LSU, easily the best coverage linebacker in the draft, one of the best coverage linebackers we've ever seen coming out of the draft. He can guard tight ends, he can guard slots, he'll shut down running backs out the backfield, a special sideline-to-sideline athlete. I don't really love him in the run game, but he did show some decent run traits in the preseason, so I did like that as well. He's not going to play a whole lot this year just because the Cowboys are so deep at linebacker, but this is a guy who will be a starter in 2022.
Terrible secondary, but deep at linebacker.
Yeah, that's what the Cowboys decided to go with. Then the rest of the draft is a bunch of late round guys. They took Simi Fujoko, who had 200 yards in his last game at Stanford against UCLA. Quentin Bohanna, who was Kelvin Joseph's teammate at Kentucky, 6'5", 360-pound nose tackle. He's got a role. He's gonna play on early downs, be a guy who plays at the middle. And other guys, Matt Barniak, Israel Mukuamu, and they did take a tackle from Marshall, Josh Ball, who had second-round talent, but he has really, really, really ugly off-the-field stuff. He's on IR right now. He's on IR right now. He's probably going to be he's guy who they peg to be the swing tackle going forward. Hopefully, as he gets on the field.
If he avoids jail.
The stuff that happened to him was his freshman year, so that's long gone. But hopefully, nothing reverts. I'm not going to talk about it here. But overall, I gave their draft a B. It was a lot worse grade when I first saw the draft, but after seeing some guys in preseason, I felt a little bit better about it, so I gave him a B. Micah Parsons is right now the betting favorite to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's going to play 99% of the snaps for the team right away. He's going to lead the team in tackles. He's probably going to be the most productive player on the defense.
It's crazy because, in my opinion, the top 3 guys at that spot, the Defensive Rookie of the Year, are all in the NFC East, because I do think if Jamin Davis is good, he could be really good in that Washington football team. And I told you I think Aziz could win it if he gets like 7 or 5. And
as you know, it's always hard. The only deep in the finish that win the top 10 were corners, and we know it's really, really hard for corners to win that award. So yeah. And
I don't think any of them, except unless Patrick Surtain is amazing, is going to get. It's hard to do it as a corner. Yeah. So it'll probably be a linebacker or pass rusher.
So overall, like I said, I gave their draft a B. They picked 11 players, so they're trying to get lots of cheap talent in there, as the Cowboys have a lot of high-paid players at the top of their roster, and they all made the team, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Eric, how do you feel about the Cowboys and Giants?
The Giants, I liked their offseason better than Dallas. Let me get.
They spend more money, so it's easy. Yeah,
we didn't have money to spend. They have a Kobe on a rookie contract.
Yeah, so
the paying top dollar for Kenny Golladay, I think we'll see. I don't know if he can. It all depends on Danny Dimes' growth, on if that Kenny Golladay contract's worth it. Theodore Jackson, I like a lot to add to your already good defense. And Dallas, I just don't know what to do with y'all. That defense is just horrid, man.
It's not. This is a different defense. It's not going to be the same defense as last year. I'm not saying it's going to be good. But for a defense that was bottom 5, can they be 18 to 22? That's a massive improvement. Massive. And with the offense that we have, that might be all we need.
Eric, it's not even the defense, because they have a decent pass rusher, and their linebackers are good. Their secondary it's pretty awful. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Have what you want, all you want. All you can eat buffet in the Dallas secondary. But then lastly, on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are not going to get much love here.
It's going to be pretty. This is not going to be a favorable review of the Philadelphia Eagles.
I did like the draft.
Yeah.
And, hey, I'm telling everybody right now, We'll talk about the over-unders, but this is going to be a good year for the NFC East.
So Eagles season, we'll talk last year. They were 3-14-1, I think. 3-13-1, something like that. They had a tie. They won 3 games. Whatever the loss was, doesn't matter. Last year, obviously, Carson Wentz started the first half of the year, was the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, he wasn't the worst quarterback.
He got benched for Jalen Hurts.
Like, yeah, because
he led the league in interceptions. He had like 15 picks.
Just because he threw a bunch of interceptions. What are you talking about? When he was really awful. Who was out here playing quarterback last year that we saw? Like
maybe he was better than Minshew.
He was better. He was like bottom. He was in the 20s. He clearly didn't have a top 10 season. He just had a down year. Like
he was
when Brett Favre had a bad year, when Eli had a bad year when they threw.
And none of those guys got traded away. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because none of those guys won their Super Bowls, not their backup.
Another fantastic point.
Listen here, everybody. The coach, the biggest problem in Philadelphia is that their coach finessed
the coach that won with the backup quarterback, huh?
He finessed the Super Bowl, and so people thought he was nicer when he's really just been a terrible coach the whole time. Which goes to show you bad coaches can win Super Bowls.
Philly, obviously, last year they were 29th in passing DVOA because they got no real good production out of their quarterback, nor did they have any talent at the receiving position.
No talent at the receiver, and their offensive line was hurt.
So good luck. Obviously, as you can see, it was a real struggle for them on offense. Defense, Philadelphia is usually solid. They always have. They usually invest heavily in making sure their defense is at least mediocre.
Like Dallas, their secondary is also a buffet.
But their front seven is still fantastic. They finished 15th in defensive DVOA, 13th against the run.
Their linebackers are falling off.
Obviously, they were 24th in the pass last year because outside of Darius Slay, who's also declined, they really don't have anybody worth anything in the secondary. They finished 4-11-1 last year. My bad. In the off-season additions, surprisingly, I didn't even know this until I looked it up. But Ryan Kerrigan is in Philadelphia.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on with Ryan Kerrigan. But fine rotational edge guy. He can still be a solid defensive end for you, third down edge rusher. He can.
He's never played in a 4-3. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, he'll have his hand out. We'll see how that changes. A guy who I really liked a lot, who was a victim of a weird, suffocated safety market, Anthony Harris.
Because he wasn't that good.
They brought on Nick Sirianni from Indianapolis, who's going to bring over more of a cover two high safety scheme, which Anthony Harris fits in really well.
He does fit.
So I think a good scheme fit for him, plus a good pass rush in front of him. I think that'll he'll have a good season. They late in the process, they added Steven Nelson, the cornerback from Pittsburgh, who got zone corner from Pittsburgh, who got cut because of cap constraints. He had a really solid season last year. He's probably their best cornerback on the team right away as he steps in. They added Eric Wilson. Joe Flacco is going to come be the backup, and
probably not.
I think he's going to be the backup, but they're going to carry 3 obviously because they also traded for recently Minshew Mania Gardner Minshew, who was never in a real quarterback competition, by the way. So overall, I did like their additions a lot. They their losses, they lost Carson Wentz. Obviously, they traded him away for a 2 and a conditional first. That could be a 2. We'll see how that goes for them. They saw it looks like they felt like he couldn't be saved, and they moved on.
The relationship was over. It was a toxic relationship. Especially because just like the Ben Simmons relationship in Philly, Philadelphia fans, you guys are ruthless for no reason. They act like y'all win all the time. Damn.
Sheesh, Isaiah.
They ruthless for no reason. Like, y'all don't win a lot. Why y'all mad?
I mean, hey, Philadelphia fans, y'all not gonna get good. There are gonna be good reviews for y'all here. They also lost Malik Jackson, who they added from Denver a few years ago. He never really lived up to that contract as he's kind of fallen off. They added and lost again for like the 3rd time Deshaun Jackson. They added, then cut Marquise Goodwin. They cut Jason Peters. Who's
their relationship's over, and that one's finally done. He's been there forever.
They let go of Jalen Mills as well, who got a decent contract in New England.
He was good at safety.
Yeah, he was fine at safety, but he can't play corner. And they also lost Vinny Curry. So a lot of those guys from that 2017 Super Bowl team kind of are out the door.
Fletcher Cox and Brendan Graham.
Yeah, the veteran stalwarts, so some of them are still there, but they did lose some of the depth pieces that they've had over the years. Overall, for their offseason, I gave them a B. I really like the Anthony Harris and Steven Nelson additions. That's going to help their secondary. That's been really, really bad. I think those are 2 solid players that can at least help elevate their secondary from being one of the worst in the NFL. They got 3 quarterbacks basically. So all who I think are about the same level of ability at this point.
Which says something because Joe Flacco is one of those quarterbacks, and he's done. Jalen Hurts has looked decent in the preseason. Decent.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm not high on him.
I'm not high on him either. We'll see how he develops.
Huh?
Also lost Nate Sudfeld, boys.
Sudfield. Who cares about Sudfield?
All my homies hate that. Hey, they put him in a bad situation. That's gonna be like on a trivia question. Who's the quarterback who came in behind Jalen Hurts when Philadelphia infamously tanked away a football
Hey,
game?
don't forget, Nate Sudfeld was going to be the original guy before Nick Foles. It's like, oh no, we can't start this guy. We had to go with Nick Foles when Carson Wentz went down. So moving on to their draft, I actually thought their draft was pretty excellent overall. In the first round, they traded up for Devontae Smith to jump the New York Football Giants. A rare interdivisional deal with the Dallas Cowboys as the NFC.
That would have been nice. That would have been nice.
So he's going to come try to elevate their receiving core. That was the worst in the
league. My biggest problem
with
that is that on the Giants, he was going to be a 2-3 to start his career.
He's got to be the number one top guy right away. Absolutely. The second year in a row, the Philadelphia Eagles have taken a receiver in the first round. They obviously know what the need is, and they're trying to adjust.
They passed on DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson.
I love it. Thank you. In the second round, they took my favorite pick of their draft class, Landon Dickerson from Alabama. He come off a torn ACL last year, but he somehow was able to get snaps in the natty because
he just got in the game. All he did was take the knee snap.
Like the fact that he could even do anything after tearing his ACL is a testament to his
toughness.
played
a full football basketball game after he played.
It's a testament to the toughness of a guy.
That. He was my number one interior guy.
I like Landon Dickerson a lot coming out. He's going to be a really solid interior guy for them. I think. I guess you're considering Slater and Vera Tucker tackles.
I had Vera Tucker. That's what I had Vera Tucker as a tackle, but he's going to play guard. So he would be the number one guy, but
they're going to play him at guard for right now. But obviously, he's the replacement for Jason Kelsey when he leaves to come be the leader of that interior OL. Philadelphia always tries to keep their OL solid. This is another guy to add to that. But the injury issues
always keep him injured too.
On a team with injury issues is always scary. In the third, they took Milton Williams, the interior defensive lineman. You can move him around all over. I like him a lot as well. Cornerback Zach McPherson in the secondary. Kenneth Gainwell is a running back I did like a lot. And then late in the draft, the guy, nice stumper safety linebacker hybrid, Jacoby Stevens from LSU. Philadelphia always wants to be stout against the run. They continue that philosophy here in the draft as well. I gave them an A. I thought their draft was really, really good. Overall, top to bottom, they added players to all their needs in the secondary, a receiver. They kept the trenches strong with some of their interior picks as well. They're another team who probably should have been going to get Justin Fields, but I guess they're in on Jalen Hurts for right now. He's the guy. They're going to try to see if they can make it work with him.
Eric, talk to me about Philly.
I mean, I definitely think they're in a little bit of a lower class than the rest of the division. I mean, because at least
that's a lot.
I'll say they're in a lower class in the league. Luckily, they're in a bad division, so it's not that far behind. Because I still think they'll be in the. They'll be in the.
You can go to each team like, all right, like this side of the ball, we can rely on. Like Washington, you can rely on their defense. Dallas, you can hang your hat on your offense, and then I would say the Giants, you can hang your hat a little bit more on the defense, and like. You can't really say either.
Philly's good in the trenches.
Philly's got a solid defense, and they're going to be great on both sides of the ball. It's a solid defense. Like they were still 15th last year. They added 2 guys who are going to be upgrades in their secondary. So they're still going to be solid.
Philly's good in the trenches, offensively and defensively.
That too. So
that helps you stay in games. So that's what they've got going for them.
The biggest problem with Philly is they got a first-year coach who we don't really know anything about. We're going to see if Frank Reich's got a great coaching tree. We're about to find that out. I would have preferred they go get the defensive coordinator from Indianapolis. I think he's the better option for a head coaching job, but
he didn't want to go there for sure. He would go there and go to LA.
No, I'm talking about Eberflus, the coordinator for Indianapolis.
I'm thinking about Stanley.
Yeah, but overall, Philly just
their biggest problem is
they got
the worst quarterback in the division,
but 3 bad quarterbacks. So that's a problem. If you have the worst quarterback in the division, that doesn't have a lot of great quarterback play. So that's the biggest problem for Philly. They're going to go into every match that they play this season with probably the worst quarterback on the field. That's going to help. That's going to be a struggle to win games right there. But they played a weak division. The NFC overall isn't as strong as it used to be. So I don't expect it to be very good, but it may not be as disastrous as it may be.
Because luckily, even if they only win 6 games, they'll probably be 2 games, 3 games out of winning the division. They're going to be in the race all the way through, just because the race is going to be a snail's race. So anything else for Philly, Eric?
No.
All right, so we can get into some over-unders.
Yep, get these win totals.
So Vegas always get these Dallas Cowboys fans right where they want them. They've got Dallas at 9.5. And I took the under because they're probably going to be at best a 9-win team. So I took the under.
I'll take the over, and I'll take it slightly. They'll win 10. Like that's a team that's going to win 9 because the 10 wins is the new 9 wins. You got to remember there's an extra game. So overall, the Dallas Cowboys, the schedule in the NFC East is not good. Like the NFC East has a really, really soft schedule if y'all look at it. But I'll take them to win to go 10-7. That's a half point over the thing. 9 wins is the same. So
Eric, you said you're going with the under.
Yeah, I'm going under.
So for the Giants, here we go. We got Washington football team came up first. They're also staying at a trap game number. They got 8.5
under,
and I'm going to take the over. I'll also take the over.
Washington football team is the most overrated team in the NFL.
Chase Young, what's your defensive player of the year?
Yes, sir.
Benson. And Montez Sweat, watch out. He could have a monster season, too. They could have 2 guys in the top 5 of defense.
Such a great defense that they gave up 30 points 8 times. Amazing. That's more than the Cowboys did. But, just whatever.
But, yeah, 8.5. I'll take – I think 8.5, actually. I took the over. But as I think about it, they might be an 8-win team. But I'll take the – I actually think they'll win 9 games. So I'll take the over. 9 games is what I got them at. Giants are sitting at 7. I took the over, but man, it's over.
I don't feel good about that. Seven's like right where I would think. I wish it was like 6.5 or 7.5. That would be an easier decision. 7 feels like a push to me.
Over that, I think they'll win 9 games.
Since I think y'all are better than the Washington football team, I'll give y'all the over.
And then Philadelphia just got. Go ahead, Eric. I can't hear you.
Under.
So Washington football team's running away with this division, huh, Eric? They're lapping the field. That's according to you. They're lapping the field.
And Philadelphia's at 6.5.
Under.
I
got my Philadelphia record prediction is 4-13. They do not have with the quarterback matchups that they have. New coach, it's going to be tough on them.
I'll take the under, but I think they can win 6 games. So let's rank them up. I'll go first. They're all. I'm sure these are all going to be. This is like the first time we'll all have something different. Mm-hmm. So I'll go. Giants at 1 off of fandom, but I didn't like the way the offensive line looked in the preseason. Washington football team at 2. I think both the Giants and Redskins win 9 games, and tiebreaker decides who gets into the playoffs. I think Cowboys win 8 games, so they finish in 3rd, and I think the Eagles win 6 games and they finish in 4th, but a respectable 4th.
All right, obviously, I'm going to go with fandom as well. Pick the Cowboys to be number 1. But when Dak is healthy, they've gone the last 3 years. Dak's been 100% healthy. The Cowboys division record has been 5-1, 5-1, 5-1.
Did you go to the playoffs all 3 of those years?
2 out of the 3 he went, but yeah, not all 3. Unfortunately, he fucked up his shoulder right before he played Philly. We couldn't win that game. But overall, when Dak Prescott plays, his record against the division is stellar.
The division was also terrible during Jerome.
And I don't think it's significantly better. I think it's better, but I don't think it's significantly better. And Dak is far and away, head and shoulders, the best quarterback in the division, and that gives him the best chance to win the division. At 2, I'll take the New York Football Giants because I think they're they probably have the most complete roster on both sides of the ball. But Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. I don't really trust that.
Best deep ball thrower in the league.
On the lowest volume.
Is that his fault or Jason Garrett?
Jason Garrett still calling plays, ain't he?
This year's different. Saquon's back. We did that without Saquon.
Saquon is back this year. He's coming off a torn ACL. Guys usually better the second year than the first year coming off of it. We'll see.
Adrian Peterson season, comeback season.
He does, and then the problem is I trust Saquon's talent. I don't trust your offensive line at all, and that's going to be the issue.
They're a good run blocking offensive line.
Saquon averaged 1.8 yards a carry last year. I mean, it's obviously going to be better than that because he's Saquon, but it shows you the run offense struggles in New York Giants.
We've got Pittsburgh. Healthy Pittsburgh versus rookie young Giants offensive line. They set us up to fail, and then they fed us to the Bears.
At 3, I'll take the Washington football team. They're going to fall on their face because they're going to trust Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to give it away, which is going to hurt that defense from being as good as they want it to be. Overall, Ron Rivera is also a bit overrated as a coach as well.
He is overrated.
So that's another reason why I don't love the Washington football team. I think they got handed the division title literally by the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, they just gave it to them. If the Eagles go and would do what they should have done and beat them, the Giants would have won the division last year. And how high would we be on Washington football team then? I don't think
Taylor Heineke.
I don't think we would be. So that's why I'm going to take them lower. Their total was 8.5. 7-8 win team in my opinion. And then at the bottom of the food chain, obviously the rebuilding Philadelphia Eagles.
But they got 3 first-round picks, and they drafted had a really good draft finally for the first time in a while.
The Eagles have a solid team everywhere, except for the most important position in the NFL.
And their head coach is probably a dummy. he looks like a puppet.
Well, see, it's so weird because everyone thought they hired the Indianapolis coach to save Carson Wentz, and then they traded him away. So it's just like, I don't know what Philly's doing over there.
All right, go ahead. You're gonna give us the third rendition of this breakdown.
Yeah, so I got Washington 1. I think the way you think of Dak Prescott head and shoulders above it, I think this defense is damn close to head and shoulders. Oh, the Giants.
We're going to be a top 10 defense.
Giants have a good defense, but I just think the Washington football team is just a more dominant defense. I think the addition of Curtis Samuel that will help complement Scary Terry more. They have
who's throwing the ball?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
They have a better thrower of the football this year than they did last year.
Yeah, that's actually, and it's by far, and it's not close. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick was the top half of the league quarterback last year.
I think
last year.
And we know once Ryan Fitzpatrick shows that he's good, what's following?
They're riding in dynamite.
If you live in dynamite, like come on, bro, you live in dynamite.
They have as good of a chance as the other 2 teams.
Like it's more likely the Cowboys defense approaches average than Ryan Fitzpatrick starts being a good quarterback in year 17.
Right, both good last year.
With the defense they have, you're not asking Fitzpatrick to put up 30 points a game, and I think Antonio Gibson is going to have another pretty good year. I think he'll make the running game.
I think he's a little overrated.
He had 2 100-yard games last year. Both came against the Dallas Cowboys' league worst run defense. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
I knew that, and so I think people have jumped. Be careful in your fantasy drafts if it's not too late.
And that touchdown rate's pretty unsustainable.
You want to see that before, but he's a good player. I just don't think he's what people are saying that he's about to be a star. I'm like, I'm about to see that. I'm about to see it, but he's a good player.
Becoming a star, but I think he'll make that running game viable. At number 2, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I think that offense will be able to put up numbers. It will just the only question for them is will they be able to stop anybody? So yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb is going to break out. I think this is the year CeeDee Lamb proves he's the number 1 over Amari.
If Amari Cooper the number 2 receiver for your team, that's problems for the rest of the league.
Nah, CeeDee Lamb is just that good.
Not for Amari Cooper. That's all. That's how much. If Cooper at number 2, that's a problem for you.
Cooper running out of guaranteed money. Watch out, Amari.
Yeah, no, it's actually out of it. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. But for this year, he's a $20 million man.
And then 3, I got the New York Giants. I think they'll be a good spoiler at the end of the year. I think they'll beat some teams that they have no business beating.
Like they usually do. Start off 1-7, close out the season 500.
This year we started 3-0.
And then 4th, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that I feel like they're kind of in the same boat as what we talked about with Cincinnati. It's like they're figure out what we have this year, and then we can go from there. Let's see what Jalen Hurts is. Let's see everything. Let's just throw it all out there, see what we can do, and then go from there.
My biggest problem with Philly is that they're going to have 3 first-round picks probably next year. And I thought this year's draft was the draft to have 3 first-round picks. So it's not.
I just hope teams that was looking for a quarterback ain't looking for one next year. I hope y'all looking for a QB next year, bro, because after week 1 of college football, the options don't look great.
All right, that's it for the NFC East. All right, anything else? Anything else for any other predictions we didn't?
I think we can wrap it up here. Let's go ahead. We got the week 1 preview coming up. We can give the rest of our thoughts there throughout the season. But Eric, go ahead, take us home.
All right, great show today, boys. Everyone like, subscribe to YouTube, to Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. You'll find it in the bios of all those social medias. Interact with us. Let us know if our hot takes are for real or if you counter them. Let us know your side. And,
cap or no cap. That's what the kids are calling it.
All right, boys. I'll see y'all.
All right, man.